Caymanian tradition.
Let Cora keep my ground so clean.
The heart and soul of the Cayman people. Thank you for keeping the culture alive.
Let's spread the news every day. From East End to Georgetown, down into West Bay.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
For the Record is brought to you by Vamped Motors, the only authorized Ford and Toyota dealership serving the Cayman Islands. And Cayman Pharmacy Group, with locations in West Base and professional pharmacy at CTMH Doctors Hospital. The Cayman Pharmacy Group has a location for you just around the corner.
Coming to you live from Radio Cayman Studio.
For the record.
For the record. For the record.
Hear from your government officials, independents, and the opposition on issues that matter to you. For the record. Engage in an open dialogue between residents and lawmakers.
For the record.
For the record. For the record. Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record. And now, your host, Orrett Connor.
Good morning and welcome to For the Record. Today is Friday, the 11th day of January 2019. Month is moving pretty fast. Soon Christmas will be here again. I want to thank you, our listening and viewing audience, for allowing Radio Cayman and by extension For the Record into your homes, into your vehicles as you traverse the very busy roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, whether it be an office cubicle or if you're working in the outdoors. For the Record, as you know, is a show produced by the staff and management of Radio Cayman, and it is geared towards keeping you abreast of issues as they arise and play out on the local, regional, and international scene. I am your host, Orrett Connor, and you're welcome to join me every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 7:30 a.m. until 9:30 a.m. Our phone lines are always open. There is always someone there waiting to take your calls, normally that beautiful radio voice of Miss Susan Watson. You can call us on our toll-free number provided courtesy of Flo. That toll-free number is 1-800-534-8255. You can also call us on 949-8037 and 949-6990. Email us at fortherecord, that is one word, fortherecord at candw.ky. WhatsApp us on 925-3261 and follow us live on YouTube simply by subscribing to Radio Cayman live stream. Today being Friday, it is the day that has been reserved for the official opposition to be on the show, and it is my pleasure to have in the studio with me this morning none other than the Honorable D. Ezzard Miller, MLA, who represents the District of East End and, of course, Northside, sorry. Switching districts now.
That's good.
Or combining them like they wanted to do before, right?
Arden will be calling me to what you plan on East End or
or combining them like they threatened to do before. So none other D. Ezzard Miller, MLA for the District of Northside, and of course the leader of the opposition as well. Mr. Miller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and all that goes with it, sir.
Yeah, good morning, O.C., and Happy New Year to you and to all the listening public who I haven't spoken to, because, as you said, today is already the 11th of January. I think the older we get, O.C., the faster these years come by. You know?
Yes.
But anyway, it's good to be here, and we look forward to a productive morning of discourse with the general public.
Several things that we want to talk about this morning. I think we'll start off. We didn't get an opportunity to talk with you after you returned from the UK with the constitutional talk. So let's talk about that, because I think that is public knowledge at this point in time. When you left, the public knew exactly what you were going to discuss, and the public was certainly kept up to date, up to speed, while the negotiations were going on as well.
Also, I think that, and the Premier made a statement in the Legislative Assembly when we met, I think it was on the 17th. I thought that I was one of those who insisted that this has to be done in a public environment, not like how we did the last one for the judges. And I thought that constitutional talks went very, very well. We were very frank with them, and they were very receptive and courteous, and we maintained the same level of cordiality and respect. One of the interesting things for me was the legal debate between their consultant, Mr. Ian Henry, who you know well, and the government's consultant, Sir Geoffrey, who believes that the courts must be supreme, and Mr. Ian Henry, who believes that Parliament must be supreme. So it was interesting to hear the discourse. But in the end, I think that I can sum it up this way. We asked for, I think it was a total of 15 things. Some were machinations of the same thing, because I think it was 3 that were related to Section 125, which is their ability to make laws for us without our consultation, in a consultation with us. And then, so I think we have agreement with the FCO, and therefore the British government, because Lord Ahmed did come in and have a conversation with us at the end.
Okay.
For 11 out of those 15, 2 I think are no-nos that can happen, which includes 125, and 2, they respect our concerns. They understand the reasons why we feel the way we do, and therefore they're looking to try to come up with a language either in a side letter or an amendment to those sections which will address some of our concerns without reducing their authority, because after all, we have to respect, in the end, they are the administering power. So it all comes down to that they have the authority to do what they want to do, as long as they are our administering power. So, but I think that in the process, as I understand it, going forward, is that we're expecting them to conform in writing what we have agreed on, and to actually give us a draft order, how the order would look, as what the Constitution will be amended.
Yes.
And then the Premier has agreed with me that there will be a motion in the Legislative Assembly for the Legislative Assembly to debate those and approve it or reject it. And then once that debate is over, then it would be a matter then of trying to get the UK government to issue the order in council. And you know, there's a debate publicly amongst the pundits in particular whether the clause that says changes should be subject to a referendum does in fact mean that any changes, how minor, must be subject to a referendum. I read it a different way. I read it that what must be the test of a referendum is any call for independence.
Yes, and a move towards independence.
I don't think it was intended to include changes which improve the administration or changes which increase the authority or the ability or the efficiency or the effectiveness of Caymanians to govern Cayman for Caymanians. In other words, run our own internal affairs. None of the things that we have asked for impinge on the governor's reserve powers. They're completely separate. What we have asked for are things related to our domestic affairs, which you were part of the 2009 Constitution. Gave us a lot of authority, responsibility for internal affairs that we didn't have under the 72 Constitution. So I am content that we're moving the country in the right direction. My position on the Constitution has always been that it should remain a live document and it should change with the times. And when we find, and this Constitution is 10 years old, so there are, I believe, times have changed enough that we need to increase and improve the ability of Caymanians, particularly the representatives that Caymanians elect to govern them, have more control and more say over our domestic affairs, leaving the governor's reserve powers intact. So I think it went very well. I have already publicly congratulated the Premier and his team, because I think that we were well prepared. And he acquiesced to having a session on the Thursday with his consultant and his team, and with my team, so that we understood what the strategy was going into Friday. The fact that he went the extra mile and had his consultant and his team prepare a draft of what the changes were that we wanted, I think made the negotiation much more productive and flowed much easier. Because when we went to the Friday meeting, they had in fact considered our proposals and had a counter offer.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Which again made it quite easy, because we, the things that and we could go back then to the government offices as a team and look at their proposal, and the things that they accepted we could tick off the list. And then that's exactly what we did, and we then prepared collectively a counter proposal to their proposal, which was largely what was discussed in the Monday meeting. So it was done very professionally. It progressed well. There was no screeching and screaming or anything like that. So I'm satisfied that I played my part, and that the Premier and his team played their part, and that what we will get will make Cayman a better place for all of us to live.
Okay, let's look at that point in terms of you playing your part, because we saw two other overseas territories, namely Anguilla and Turks and Caicos, who were also seeking changes to their constitution. In the case of Turks and Caicos in particular, the opposition party refused to get involved in the negotiations because their reason for that was that they were about to make changes to their leadership. And at that point in time, the current leadership didn't want to go into negotiations, knowing that change was going to take place. The government still went ahead to the UK to seek changes to the constitutional changes without the opposition, and their claim was that it wasn't, if the opposition decided not to be there, it wasn't necessary that the UK would still go ahead, and they got a surprise of their life because the UK refused to negotiate with them in the absence of the opposition. So it goes to show you the advantage that we had going to the table with the government and the opposition, not only there, but in agreement.
Yeah, and at the end of the talk, I went over to shake Mr. Ian Henry's hand, and he said to me that he wanted to thank me for coming. And I said, well, that's part of my responsibility. But I said, more importantly, I wanted to thank you for the way you conducted yourself, right? I don't know what he meant by that. I can draw certain conclusions, but not having been in the other in the earlier exercise, right? Because I think that we have a responsibility to the people that have honored us with the privilege of representing them to work collaboratively with the government whenever we can. Don't understand me. I think the opposition, and as you know, I have spent the last 18 months working very hard to raise the profile and the respect for the office of the leader of the opposition and the opposition in its entirety by dividing up the duties and introducing shadow ministers and all these sorts of stuff, which go part and parcel. Because, again, I don't believe you can have a really effective government without a really effective opposition. But it is unfortunate that we use that word opposition as opposed to alternative government or alternative view, because many people in the public chastise me for supporting the government. Now, when I think it is necessary to oppose the government, I don't know how to tell you that I will do that very, very strongly. But when it comes to what's best for Cayman, I believe we need to put politics aside and be grown up and mature enough to, particularly in the development of our institutions, right? And our Constitution is a very, very integral and important part of that, because it is from that will flow the institutions. So, I mean, there were certain things that I made the government know up front not going to happen with my signature, like a third term for the Premier and stuff like that, which had been floated. But I think that the Premier and myself looked at this as an opportunity to move Cayman forward, irrespective of who the current government is or who the next government is going to be. I think both of us took that kind of conciliatory approach to the whole thing. And therefore, that's why I think we were as successful as we were, because it is a known fact that the UK government, because their opposition is well entrenched, right, look to agreement between the opposition and the current government when it comes to constitutional changes.
Okay.
And you ain't gonna get it if you're opposing to each other.
Certainly. We're going to take
I think you can witness the fact that when you look at the minutes of the 2008 negotiations, anything that was opposed by any party around that table didn't see the light of day.
Yes, yes. Okay, we're going to take a commercial break. When we return, the conversation with MLA and leader of the opposition, Mr. D. Ezzard Miller. So please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
The Cayman Islands boasts of a long, colorful, and rich history. In tribute to our roots, Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands, is pleased to bring you the Historical Vignette Series, sponsored by Cayman National Bank. Visit Cayman National Bank today for all of your financial needs. The Cayman Islands, he hath founded it upon the seas.
Robert William Bert Foster. Bert Foster, a native of Cayman Brac, was the first college-educated and qualified teacher on the island. In 1929, he succeeded his sister as principal of the Western District Government School in Cotton Tree Bay. Many elder Brackers still remember Mr. Bert as an excellent teacher. He was strict but fair, and he instilled in the students his own standards and morals. His career at the government school was cut short by the 1932 hurricane, which destroyed the building. He lost several members of his family, including his sister and her infant son, and he was in charge of the cleanup and recovery efforts underway when their bodies were found. He taught for several years at the Creek School before undertaking training as a wireless operator. He was the first operator of the government wireless station at Stake Bay, which opened in 1936. He worked there until he married Audrey Foster in 1940 and moved to Trinidad, where he became wireless operator at the U.S. Naval Station. After the war, he served as ship's officer and master with several companies before retiring in 1968.
Radio Cayman's Historical Facts Vignettes are proudly brought to you by Cayman National, with branches on all 3 Cayman Islands. Visit Cayman National Bank today for all of your financial needs.
I need a bank that is convenient for me.
What do you mean?
I need a bank that has easy-to-find locations and plenty ATMs when I need cash on the go.
Oh, well, that's easy. You need to bank with Cayman National. They have 7 customer service centers and 23 ATM locations. The newest one is at the East End Post Office, and I hear there's more to come.
Well, sounds like I need to bank with Cayman National Bank, the convenient bank, because they seem to be everywhere.
Yeah, that's true. Cayman National is everywhere. Surely they are Cayman's convenient bank.
Cayman National Bank. We're here for you.
It's 2019, and you know what they say, new year, new me?
Yeah, Bobo. For me, it's new year, new car.
For real? What you thinking of buying?
The new RAV4 from Bat Motors. It's one of the safest compact SUVs out there with enough room inside, which is good for my family and convincing my wife we need this. Plus, it's fuel efficient, fun to drive, and on top of that, it's on sale too.
Yeah, and I hear it's one of the best-selling SUVs on the market.
Cause you don't gotta spend more to do more. That's why I'm gonna get mine now, while they have a new stock to select from.
Do Do more in your RAV4. Save thousands on the all-new 2019 RAV4. Test drive yours today and see why the RAV4 is a best-selling SUV in Cayman. Available only at Vamped Motors, Walkers Road.
The Cayman Pharmacy Group would like to thank the Cayman communities for their continuous support for over the past decade. CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy opened its doors in March 2000. West Bay Pharmacy first opened their doors in March 2004. The Cayman Pharmacy Group was established in July 2007. Throughout the years, our CPG family has provided more than just pharmaceuticals to our loyal friends and customers. The Cayman Pharmacy Group has protected the lives of our medical community by securing the best healthcare advice and pharmaceutical services. To us at CPG, you are more than just a number. So, we are taking the time to say thank you for choosing CPG. The Cayman Pharmacy Group, taking care of your health.
This Health Flash is brought to you by Cleveland Clinic, Florida. Over 65 million people around the world have moderate or severe COPD, a family of diseases that includes emphysema and chronic bronchitis. Cleveland Clinic, Florida offers a wide range of management and treatment options for COPD, including programs focused on education, medication, smoking cessation, and pulmonary rehabilitation. A team of experts is ready to review your symptoms and test results to develop a comprehensive treatment plan. For more information, visit clevelandclinicflorida.org.
Cayman's tourism product must be properly developed to ensure long-term prosperity for all.
According to the Environmental Impact Assessment, 3 years of construction will stop all water and shore-based activities in the Georgetown Harbor.
Snorkeling, scuba, glass-bottom boat tours, and submarine tours currently generate around $10 million per annum
from our Georgetown Harbor reefs alone. This will result in the loss of hundreds of jobs and closure of many small businesses.
14 acres of healthy coral reefs will be destroyed.
Healthy coral reefs destroyed.
Destroyed.
Cruise ship engines will stir up silt,
smothering the very product tourists come to see. Is this responsible stewardship of our precious natural resources? Will Caymanians really benefit from the piers?
Our government must get it right.
Must get it right.
For us now and for future generations.
Make an informed decision.
Support the referendum.
Support the referendum.
Support the referendum.
And let's build our future together.
System 1 loaded.
1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the Record, with your host, Orrett Connor.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. My pleasure to have in the studio with me this morning MLA and Leader of the Opposition, Honorable D. Ezzard Miller. I want to touch very briefly on Section 125 of our Constitution. And that was one of the sections that you indicated that there was no give so far in that regard. Now, other than having the legal minds there in the form of Sir Jeffrey Joel and Mr. Ian Henry, the other parties around the table, other than the technocrats, were politicians. One politician, politician to politician scenario. In those scenarios, normally when politicians are negotiating, you realize that each side has constituents that they represent in some form or the other, and they appreciate the fact that you're both trying to get something for your constituents. So other than ruling out the complete removal of Section 125, would they have considered any sort of caveat to 125 that says, yes, the UK can legislate for the Cayman Islands by order in council, but after consultation, let's say after consultation, as opposed to acting on the advice of, but after consultation with the Cayman Islands government. Because what that does, if there is some unpopular piece of legislation that is coming forward that the politicians here in the Cayman Islands have said, we refuse simply to legislate for that. We're not going to pass any legislation, and the UK says, yes, we're going to do it. Then at least after they have, if they have consulted with you, it gives you, the local politician, an opportunity to say, we did our best. Here's what we did. But at the end of the day, they're going to have to do it.
But and that was a very interesting discussion across the table, because we put forth our concerns as to why we thought that was, in its current format, is very draconian, or has a possibility to be draconian, particularly with what happened with the beneficial ownership, where they tacked that onto their piece of legislation before the House of Commons and the House of Lords.
Finance bill, yeah.
And their counter-argument was that, we are the administering power. We have to have some authority to do these things when you won't do it, if you won't do something, or if they think it is necessary to do it. But they did, in fact, and we're not getting too much trouble here now.
I don't want you to.
To the removal of Section 80, which, subject to correction on the Constitution before me, is the ability of the governor to refuse to assent to legislation. And Section 81, which is the ability of the governor to sit down in his bathroom at the government house and write us a law, and we have to obey it. So having gotten those two removed, it was then less likely, right? But we thought, or at least I thought, from a negotiating point of view, we had to include the Acts of 125 with the hope of getting 8 and 81, because negotiation is
art of compromise, huh?
And you have to put in places things that you can give up. You got to know what your boundaries are. I mean, I got lucky. I did do quite a bit of training in negotiation. I'm a certified negotiator. So while we stood our ground, and one of the suggestions that I made was, because there are constitutions that exist that doesn't have it, 125. Of course, the standard mantra is that, but that was a pre-independence constitution. So I floated the idea, so if we decide to set a date for independence, you'll remove the clause, and then we can decide we're not going independent because we can change our mind, as a bit of levity in what we were doing. But it is still hope, and I'm comfortable that they appreciated and understood our concerns, particularly after the fiasco, because the executive arm of the UK government were rather embarrassed by the way beneficial ownership was handled. And while we're on that topic, you notice we've had when I was coming in here listening to the news, I heard the CEO for Cayman Finance on the radio commenting on this thing with the Netherlands, putting us on a blacklist, and going to extremes to say how they did it wrong. And all of that is good.
Yes.
But, I believe the Premier handled the UK government correctly when they came out and said that on beneficial ownership, and we had an MOU that allowed them access for criminal reasons within 24 hours and all this kind of stuff. And the Premier, correctly, in my view, said, you've done this now, this is off the table. So I would encourage the Premier and Cayman Finance to tell the Netherlands that we're going to tear up the, Tax Exchange Information Agreement, TEIA, or whatever that, where we've had with them for years that has worked well, because we have to draw the line in the sand someplace. And it is probably better to draw it with some place like the Netherlands, which is less significant than the global OECD.
Yes.
But we need to say, listen, we can do this. We can tear up this agreement. And if you want to, and if you're not recognizing it and simply putting us on a blacklist, then okay, we need to start talk about this. You want this agreement to continue? Take us off the blacklist.
Okay, we're going to go to the headline news, but when we return after that, I want you to share with our listening audience, what you would do if you were premier in terms of the Netherlands, from a local standpoint in the Netherlands, what you would do in terms of addressing the populace of the Netherlands as well. Please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back immediately after the 8 o'clock news.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. And studio time now by Price Right is 7:59.
Price Right is Grand Cayman's warehouse shopping superstore, making your dollar go further with huge savings and no membership fees. Get more of the things you use every day at the right price. But it's not just grocery and health and beauty. Price Right has a full range of products from office to automotive, patio furnishings to kitchen appliances, and even electronics. And since warehouse prices mean savings for you, everything is priced right at Price Right, Grand Cayman's warehouse shopping superstore.
The voice of the Cayman Islands.
89.9 FM in Grand Cayman and 93.9 FM in Cayman Brac and Little Cayman.
Silver wings shining in the sunlight.
Radio Cayman.
Access. Information. Your community. News and information. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
With your latest news, I'm Karsley Fuller. Local health officials are urging Cayman Islands residents to be aware of the symptoms of dengue as a precaution following increased activity in the region. Radio Cayman's April Cummings has more.
Cayman Islands Public Health says there are no reports or evidence of any cases of dengue fever in the Cayman Islands. But because of the high level of travel between Cayman and other destinations that do have dengue, they're stepping up surveillance and monitoring, as well as working to increase public education. So what do public health officials want you to know? That dengue is a mosquito-borne viral disease transmitted by female Aedes aegypti mosquitoes. Symptoms include the acute onset of a high fever and at least two of the following: severe frontal headache, joint pain, pain behind the eyes, muscle and or bone pain, and sometimes a rash visible 2 to 5 days after the onset of fever. You might also experience nausea or vomiting, and if you have signs of bleeding, things like pinpoint red or purple spots on your skin, nosebleeds, or bleeding gums, you might actually have a severe form of dengue fever known as dengue hemorrhagic fever. All residents and visitors experiencing symptoms after traveling to a country with established transmission of dengue should immediately see a doctor and report their travel history. April Cummings, Radio Cayman News.
Over the last 3 years, the Cayman Islands has experienced 3 imported and 1 locally transmitted case of dengue in 2016. No cases were reported in 2017. There were 2 imported cases last year. And stakeholders involved in the development of the National Culture and Heritage Policy and Strategic Plan have ramped up efforts in 2019. CIGTV's Donna Bush has more.
Meetings have reconvened to work on the costed operational plan. Stakeholders will be meeting in the months ahead to discuss and work on the short, medium, and long-term priorities with the aim of putting the plan and policy into action. Back in 2017, the first printed copy of the National Cultural and Heritage Policy and Strategic Plan was unveiled. In it, policy directions for the culture and heritage sectors for the next 10 years is set out.
That's CIGTV's Donna Bush. In regional news, a group of women at the Fort Augusta Adult Correctional Center in Jamaica have taken to Facebook Live demanding that the authorities take appropriate measures to secure them. It follows Wednesday night's stabbing of an inmate in a dorm she shared with a prisoner awaiting trial for murder after allegedly stabbing a man to death while he was being searched by the police just over 2 years ago. The attacker is before the court on another charge of unlawful wounding in connection with the stabbing of an inmate during an altercation last year. In the Facebook video, the inmates accused prison officials of taking too long to respond respond to calls for help, saying it took more than 30 minutes before wardens accessed the cell to rescue the inmate. They also maintained that the attacker should have been isolated. Earlier this week, Dexter Thompson, the Director of Corporate Communications and Public Relations at the Department of Correctional Services in Jamaica, rejected claims that prison officials took long to get to the victim. He said, quote, "We moved expeditiously in this incident, but you have to first note that an attack takes place in a matter of seconds, and when that happens, prison officials have to ensure they minimize further casualties." Thompson also said the attacker had not been displaying behavior that demanded isolation. Meanwhile, he said the Corrections Service is doing everything it can to ensure that prisoners are safe. Now with a check of international news, here's the BBC, who will take us out of the newscast. I'm Karsley Fuller from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
BBC News with Jonathan Ezzard. The British Foreign Secretary Jeremy Hunt has warned that if members of Parliament vote down the current Brexit deal next week, the consequence could be that Britain does not leave the European Union at all. He said Parliament had shown it was doing everything it could to avoid leaving the EU without a deal. A Chinese businessman reportedly working for the telecommunications company Huawei has been arrested in Poland on suspicion of spying. The Polish authorities said that a former member of the Polish security service has also been detained. Huawei's offices have been searched, along with those of the French mobile phone network Orange. The arrests coincide with increasing international scrutiny of Huawei, which is suspected by Western governments of links with Chinese intelligence. The head of Japan's Olympic Committee, Tsunekazu Takeda, has been placed under formal investigation in France on corruption allegations. Judges are looking into a suspect payment of €2 million made before Japan was chosen to host the 2020 Games. A court in Myanmar has rejected the appeal of two Reuters journalists who were jailed for 7 years for collecting state secrets. Hua Lone and Jaw So-oo were convicted in September after reporting on a massacre of Rohingya Muslims by the army. BBC News.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
If your 2019 resolutions include clear and healthy skin, then ask the pharmacist at Healthcare Pharmacy in Grand Harbor about Proactive and X-Out skincare products. Get your best blemish-free skin ever with dermatologist-developed Proactive. X-Out is a revolutionary doctor-developed acne treatment designed just for teens. This one-step face cleanser works 3 ways to clear up acne. Ask the pharmacist at the Healthcare Pharmacy in Grand Harbor for advice on Proactive and X-Out. 2019 will be your year of clear and healthy skin. Healthcare Pharmacy, Grand Harbor.
In financial news, global markets were mixed Friday as investors cheered the Federal Reserve's more restrained stance and opted to view this week's U.S.-China trade talks in a positive light. Keeping score in Europe, Germany's DAX slipped 0.1% at 10,908, and the CAC 40 in France also edged 0.1% lower to 4,798. Britain's FTSE 100 rose 0.6% to 6,982. Wall Street was positioned for a flat opening. Futures for the S&P 500 index fell 0.1% to 2,591, and those for the Dow were flat at 23,949. Looking at Asia's day, Japan's Nikkei 225 index advanced 1% to 20,359, and South Korea's Kospi was 0.6% higher at 2,075. Hong Kong's Hang Seng rose 0.6% to 26,667, and the Shanghai Composite surged 0.7% to 2,553. In energy, benchmark U.S. crude added 35 cents to $53.11 per barrel in electronic trading on the New York Mercantile Exchange. Brent crude used to price international oils was up 17 cents at $61.85 per barrel. It gained 24 cents to $61.68 in London. And in currencies, the dollar weakened to 108.26 yen from 108.43 late Thursday. The euro rose to 1.1527 from 1.1501.
Barry's Golden Jerk, the Cayman Brac sensation, ranked the #1 restaurant in Cayman Brac by TripAdvisor and home of the authentic jerk. Barry's Golden Jerk, serving large portions of the best jerk chicken and pork. Open Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday near the airport, or call 917-6713. Barry's Golden Jerk. It's simply better.
Good morning. Time now for the latest weather report. Synopsis indicate moderate northeasterly winds and seas. continues across the Cayman area for the next 24 hours in association with a high-pressure system over the western Atlantic Ocean. Further east, a cold front east of Jamaica will become stationary later today over Jamaica, and radar images show isolated showers in and around the Cayman area, which are moving towards the south. For the east, a cold front east of the Cayman area will become stationary later today over Jamaica. Now the forecast for the Cayman Islands for today, calling for partly cloudy skies with a 30% chance of showers, and temperatures will be in the low 80s today. Your winds will be north to northeast at 10 to 15 knots, and seas will be moderate with wave heights of 3 to 5 feet, especially along the northwest, north and east coast. The forecast for tonight, calling for partly cloudy skies with a 30% chance of showers, and temperatures falling to the low 70s tonight. Your winds will be northeast at 10 to 15 knots. Seas will be slight to moderate with wave heights of 3 to 5 feet. Low tide will be this afternoon at 1:29 and a high tide this evening at 6:40. The sun will set this evening at 4 minutes past 6 and will rise tomorrow morning at 2 minutes after 7. And the outlook is calling for similar weather conditions through Sunday morning. Time now to take a look at what's happening traffic-wise. Slow-moving traffic on Cool Road, and traffic is busy coming off of Agnes Way, just off the Linford-Pearson Highway. And on the Linford-Pearson Highway, steady traffic. Some areas a little busier than others. And busy traffic on Shamrock Road, just past the Tomlinson Roundabout. Godfrey Nixon Way and Easton Avenue, traffic flowing moderately. And moderate flow of traffic as well on Edward Street and Shedden Road. Not looking too bad, as traffic is light to moderate in both directions. Light traffic on Owen Roberts Drive. And on the Westway Road, traffic moving along moderately, especially in front of the Ritz. And on North Sound Road, moderate flow of traffic. Traffic is steady coming off of Bobby Thompson Way. Look out for the vehicle in front of you and the vehicle in the back of you. And buckle up. Have a good morning.
If you are seeking a bachelor's, master's, or doctorate degree, the Ministry of Education is now accepting applications for the 2019 Overseas Scholarships. Give yourself the education you deserve and apply today. All scholarship applications must be submitted by January 31st, 2019. For more information on scholarships and the application process, kindly visit education.gov.ky.
In local sports, 7 special athletes will compete at the World Games this year. 5 men and 2 women will grace the track and field at the 2019 Summer Games in Abu Dhabi. Special Olympics Cayman Islands track and field coach Ken Figuera says presently they have 3 senior athletes with experience to help lead the pack.
Who's our top athlete or top track athlete that brings home the medals for us?
Presently, we have 3 athletes who had gone to Los Angeles, Matthew Banks and Jordan McLean, who should bring some medals. But we have a female athlete, a 16-year-old, Chesley Fredericks. I'm hoping that she will do well in the field event. This is the first time we're entering a female in the field event. So I'm looking forward to her. In fact, I want her to go beyond this particular game. I'd like her to even think about CARIFTA in the future. She has the ability.
Okay. What's the criteria to know if an athlete is mentally or physically challenged enough to participate or to compete at the Special Olympics level?
Criteria to be a special athlete has to be someone with intellectual challenge. There may be some physical challenge, but the focus is someone with intellectual challenge. We normally have on our board a director who has the skill set to determine that. Usually, we would get our athletes coming in from schools and institutions that would support people with intellectual challenges. So that's our basis. We also have people who would come from the community who are not involved in any institutional care with intellectual challenges.
Okay.
So that's where the Special Olympic program is focused, as against para-athletes who may be more physically challenged.
Radio Cayman's Dion England there speaking with the Special Olympics track and field coach. The World Games will be held in the United Arab Emirates on March 14th.
Listen in for Radio Cayman's CI Retro Talk Today series of special Cayman Islands cultural and historical programs brought to you by Eats Cafe, Legends, and Yoshi Sushi. Your best choice for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, or that in-between hearty, delicious snack. They're located in the Fall Shopping Center on the West Bay Road. Radio Cayman's next presentation of CI Retro Talk Today special program airs at 12:15 p.m. Thursday, January the 17th. Be listening.
Initiating system. For information that matters. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. My pleasure to have in the studio with me none other than the Honorable D. Ezzard Miller, Leader of the Opposition. We're talking about various topics. We covered the constitutional negotiations in the United Kingdom. We're going to touch a little bit more on the issue of blacklisting. We're going to talk about the objections to the public bathrooms at the public beach at what's it called? Ivory Point?
No, Starfish Point.
Starfish Point.
It used to be Waterkey Point, then it was converted to Ivory Point, and now it's Starfish
Point. We're going to talk about that as well. But before we went to the news, we were talking about the Netherlands, and Mr. Miller, I was going to ask him, or I am going to ask him to share one more bit of information in terms of what he would do if he were in a position to deal with the Netherlands. Mr. Miller.
Well, I would be much more direct with them. And as I said earlier, I would handle them the way the Premier handled the FCO in the UK when they went out with a statement about us not being fully cooperative. And we had an MOU, and they had this revolt in Parliament that made the MOU useless. My comment to the Netherlands, and I would take it an ad in there in all the newspapers and tell the people, listen, we've been cooperating with your government, right? We have a tax exchange information agreement with them for X number of years, which we have honored, right? And I would also list the number of times if we helped them out.
Yes.
And say, listen, you blacklisted us now, this agreement is gone, we're tearing this up. And I would also use the fact that we have taken that stance with the Netherlands when I go around, as the Premier is doing, up to talk to the OECD and all that, because they will get a message. We of course, we always want to be on the cutting edge. We want to be in compliance with all of the international standards, right, and all the best business practice. And we want to continue to elevate our financial industry above the Hollywood label of a tax haven, right? But we can do all of that, but we still need to, now and again, we've got to put our foot down.
Yeah.
And I would think that the Netherlands, I would look at that as low-hanging fruit, and I would take them on directly and take them on publicly, right? And I believe that it would resonate in certain quarters with all those who continue to move the goalposts for us, you know.
Because it's one thing to go out there and reassure the clientele of the firms here, the businesses here in the Cayman Islands, that we're doing all that we can and to reassure them. But it is also important to let the local population know what their politicians are doing, because in many instances, those people, the local populace, don't know what's going on.
And you know, listen, like I said, I am always been in favor of improving our financial industry and raising the standards. But total capitulation and agreement to everything that comes down the pipe it does not seem to be getting us in a brown of pints. Nobody gives us credit for all the things we capitulated on. So I would use this opportunity to draw a line in the sand with full cooperation of the industry. You know, one of the things that was obvious to me in the most recent thing where we had to do with this legislation in a hurry for the substantial economic business president, I was disappointed that the Minister of Financial Services talked about all the people she had consulted and the fact that she was working with 9 different groups. I think that's dangerous. because what that tells me that each of those groups are more likely to take the opportunity to carve out something for themselves. And if you will recall Mr. Ian Paget Brown's statement to the Grand Court some years ago, when he talked about how when he was involved in the infancy of the financial industry, that all of the expertise and head of the major companies and law firms in Cayman at that time took a global position on improving the financial industry and protecting the financial industry, and then competed amongst themselves for the dollars. What that suggests to me is that each of the fractions in the financial industry are more content to defend their little area and to see how they can make more money out of the industry, as opposed of looking at what's best for the global financial industry. And I think that we need to get back to where the advice that the government is getting is related to our global and our financial industry in totality, as opposed to individual, being able to make representation, to carve out their little section. Because when you look at some of the representation that we received, it was obvious to me that what this group is doing is this group is seeing how it can increase its fortunes within the industry. And I think that's dangerous, because I think that reduces the value of the advice that the government needs to have in order to do what's best for the industry. And of course, it must always be overriding what's best for Cayman.
Now, where does it end? To me, I believe, and I think many other people subscribe to this belief as well, that it is the intention of the OECD to totally eliminate low or no tax jurisdictions at the end of the day. That is the end game.
I don't doubt that, and I think it's obvious that they keep whatever we do. This is why I think we should take this opportunity with this single little country that has taken us on, and draw a line in the sand, right? Because we're never going to get them to agree that what we are doing in our country may be smarter than what they're doing in their countries, because part of their problem is that they have created this whole costly social environment that the people get all these benefits and working 4-day weeks and all this sort of stuff,
and aging population that they have to deal with. Yes,
and it is easy. Rather like our local politicians, one of the reasons we can't get more authoritative politicians because it's nice and convenient to blame the UK and the government. So it's easy for their politicians to have these international organizations set up, which pretend to be independent and professional in their approach to these things, right? Because they can say, well, this is the problem. We're doing all we can to collect our things, but we have these little countries like the Cayman Islands who's providing these opportunities for people to avoid taxes, which is no longer true, But I have said in the past that I believe that one of the other things that we need to start happening to support the financial industry is that these multinational firms that we now have in Cayman have units in all of these other jurisdictions. And my disappointment lies in the fact that when some NGO in the UK, for instance, comes up with something that is totally outlandish, those firms should automatically offer up to their newspapers and say, that's not true. These are the reasons not true. Produce that graph of how, which the Minister of Finance, which shows our progression towards cooperation with them, right? But we need to take them on at the source. What we do is we seem to be always saying, well, what else you want me to do? Okay, so I paint the house red now. Well, you want me to turn that west half blue? Okay, I'll have that done by next week. Then next week, I need to turn the other side that's facing the sun needs to be green. So we need that green. No. We need to decide that, look, we know they ain't ever going to accept us as equals. right? And I am not certainly going to support our government introducing any form of direct taxation, etc., of any sort, because we don't need it. I think Mr. McTaggart's approach to our form of taxes is that, first of all, we need to collect all the taxes that we currently can collect. And if we collect all of them, we don't need any more. But, often it is too easy for governments to introduce new taxation because their supporters or their friends not paying the taxes that they should pay, right? So we need to get our enforcement arm up on our own stuff. And, we've decided, our forefathers, in my view, took a correct decision in the 60s, and we went for consumption-based taxation as opposed to any kind of income-based or wealth-based taxation, and it's worked well for us.
Yes, it certainly has. Okay, let's switch gears now. Let's talk about gated community.
Well, gated communities is one of the things that is increasingly looked as an alternative to any of our social economic problems. Mm-hmm. You can drive around the country and you see some of them coming up. Yeah. Truth of the matter is that is not going to solve the problem. And in my particular instance, we have far too much petty crime and break-ins and robberies in my constituency. Far too much. One is too much for me. But the solution to that, right, is not to exclude the local people who you believe are your thieves. Mm-hmm. I mean, I offered to one of the things that they complained about with the restaurant facilities was garbage and litter on your properties. Listen to me. 15 years ago, when these people employed Northsiders to do their garden for them, Northsiders showed up at their house with a rake and a box of garbage bags, right? They raked up the leaves, and either they took them on the other side of the road and they burnt them, right? Or they put them in garbage bags and tucked them away. These new gardening companies that they are now contracting with because it is cheaper, all they do is come with a blow and blow it on somebody's land. Blow it in the road, yes. And they can't tell me now so. Because
I see it every Sunday morning at the Kaibo restaurant. Every Sunday morning, and we
all
complain
they're doing
about
is
it.
Blowing it onto somebody else. And I own property down there, right? And some of the richest people in this country was my neighbors down there. That's all they did was blow the garbage onto my land, right? So, just like the solution to that is to tell your gardener, listen, I don't want my garbage blown onto the street. My position is I've told the police they should be charged with littering. Mm-hmm. And they should be given a ticket for $500. You do a couple of them, they'll slow them down. Yep. So this idea comes up every now and again, that if we can keep these people out, it won't be. And if we can search everybody that's coming in and going out, we will know when they do it. They figure out how much coastline they got down there. And the other side of it is that they got across Old Manby, Big Northside, Hatland Junction, Channel, Great Tree Point, the bar, Round Key. Get down here. Mm-hmm.
So we can have a gated community right by Jack's gas station as well.
Exactly, right? And we can tell them you can't walk through, right? Search them too. That's not the answer to the problem. Yes. And I'm not going to let that take root. That is why I was so upset about when it was floated over the Christmas holidays. And again, it's the same little group, that believes that what I call the drawbridge tourists, right, or drawbridge investors, they've come here and they've got a little piece and it's on the beach and nobody else must come, right? So I've always worked with them to try to improve, increase policing. I mean, this goes back to me and then with the 80s, when we had the first crime down there. And I got the government to put up street lights. Some of these owners went around and painted all the street lights black, right? Because they didn't want no light, So that's dead. That ain't gonna happen. But it just tells you how people tend to react, and all of these places that I believe that they don't need to assist us in solving the causes of this kind of petty crime in Cayman and have no corporate or individual collective responsibility to help us find solutions and find alternatives for these people. Putting up a gate ain't gonna work.
Mm-hmm. So the hearings now, do we have a final decision yet on it?
They approved it. After the hearing, they approved it at the same meeting.
Okay.
It's been approved now. So I'm hoping that construction will start, I would probably by middle of February, because they have to go out now and tender it and stuff. And of course, CP approved it, but you still got to go through the... terribly be getting old,
Building control?
Building control unit now and comply. And one of the things that we want to do is, which came up as a suggestion, is, and I think the DEH wants us to move the garbage collection facilities a little closer to the road so that it'll be easier for them to access us on that little cul-de-sac. And one of the things that one of the residents who started as an objector suggested, which was a good suggestion, is that we would be nice if we put in some recycling bins.
Okay, yeah.
In the same area, and that's a good suggestion. So I have said to and we'll put it in writing to the architects that when we go through building control and when you're moving the garbage facility nearer to the street, can we have a little section on it that is, we can put a recycling container in? Yeah. And I think there's room for it.
And we wish you luck with building control, because I'm made to understand. I mean, I haven't put anything through to them recently, but I'm made to understand that they can be tough, sometimes too tough. And civil servants have to understand and realize that they're there to facilitate, not to obstruct.
Well, me, and I can tell you that they're tough. I tried to put up a workshop. One of the things that I had a great-grandfather who was a master carpenter, Jack and Miller. He built a lot of these buildings around town and stuff. And every now and again, he tries to work out of me, So my therapy is not Valium or Librium or Serpax or anything that is go outside, cut up wood, right? So I put in an application to build a workshop in my backyard. And I went through all kinds of stuff. The last thing they wanted was me to put down at the foundation was 8 inches above grade, because my yard is already graded and well, most of it is bush, but it's lawned off. I cut it with a lawnmower. And I said, and they want to put in a 4-inch step. I said, I'm not putting in a 4-inch step because it can get in the way of my lawnmower, right? and no, you have to have a step. I said, well, I'm not putting in a step. So I just abandoned the whole project and converted them a double garage. So they can be very, and one of the things that I keep saying to the deputy governor is that there was a time when, and you will remember this, when you went to government, I'd say pre-1984 and post-1984, you went to somebody like Sir Vassal or Mr. Dennis Foster, those kind of people, and you wanted something approved or, and you give them the form, and one little item wasn't right. They would say, well, Ezzard, this is not right, but let me fix it for my son. And they fix it right then and get it done. You go to these civil servants now, and one I is not dotted, one T is not crossed. Man, Ezzard, you're no lawyer. You didn't get a lawyer to do this. We don't have respect for my position or what. You can't do this. And every time you come back, they don't give you all the things one time, Every time you go back, there's another T that wasn't crossed, right? And another I that wasn't dotted. And you spend all that is unnecessary. Yeah. The people need, I think that the mantra the civil servants need to readopt is that we are here to help you get what you want. We got the same thing with NAU. We got the same thing with Cineco. The government set those up to help our people. We fund it, right? When somebody comes in, find a way to help the person. Your job is not to find a way to deny the person.
Yes.
Your job is to find a way to help the person. You got to identify that they need help. Don't misunderstand me, But it is very frustrating dealing with some of these agencies in government and the negativity. Don't get me started on civic centers.
Susan, you ready for the break now? We're going to take a break now. When we return, we want to talk about public accounts committee, Mr. Miller, if you will.
Yes.
Folks, please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
It's 2019, and you know what they say, new year, new me.
Yeah, Bobo. For me, it's new year, new car.
For real? What you thinking of buying?
The new RAV4 from Bant Motors. It's one of the safest compact SUVs out there with enough room inside, which is good for my family and convincing my wife we need this. Plus, it's fuel efficient, fun to drive, and on top of that, it's on sale too.
Yeah, and I hear it's one of the best-selling SUVs on the market.
Cause you don't gotta spend more to do more. That's why I'm gonna get mine now, while they have a new stock to select from.
Do Do more in your RAV4. Save thousands on the all-new 2019 RAV4. Test drive yours today and see why the RAV4 is a best-selling SUV in Cayman. Available only at Vant Motors, Walkers Road.
From happy beginnings to happy ever after.
Brit K protects your lifestyle with the best insurance cover at the best possible price.
Health insurance with far-reaching benefits.
95% of claims settled in 5 days.
Low-cost life insurance.
And investments.
Security in retirement.
With a custodian pension plan.
For happy beginnings and a happy ever after.
Visit BritK.ky or call 949-8699.
Brit K, where people come first.
Hi, I'm Colin Lumsden, the Georgetown manager and head of the Revitalization Initiative. Our capital city is the heart of business activities in the Cayman Islands, and we would like to bring it back as a center of social activities, with street-side cafes, green spaces, improved roads, and proper walkways for interconnectivity. The new cruise and cargo port is part of the plan and will allow for operators to meet passengers dockside with less lines and overcrowding. Cargo operations will be less intrusive. There will be pedestrianized areas for people to safely walk, shop, and dine. Modernizing the cruise and cargo port is a key element in the efforts to revitalizing our capital city.
System 1 loaded.
1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the Record, with your host, Orrett Connor.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, none other than the Honourable Ezzard Miller, leader of the opposition. We've covered several topics this morning, including the constitutional talks. We've spoken about the objections to planning permission being given for the enhancement of the public beach by providing public facilities, public restrooms, changing rooms at Starfish Point. We're going to discuss now the Public Accounts Committee, including the fact that I believe that we have someone here from the Isle of Man with the Public Accounts Committee. The newspapers say on secondment. I don't know whether or not that was the right terminology that was used there, Mr. Miller.
Well, kind of, but this is my continued effort to raise the standards and the functionality and the effectiveness and efficiency of the Public Accounts Committee. Mm-hmm. All of the current members of the Public Accounts Committee have attended the Commonwealth Parliamentary training. Year before last, myself, Chris, and Barbara went and did the course. Last year, Austin and Bernie went. So we've all received the kind of training that I think we need in order to how to handle reports, how to hold thing. What this is trying to do is to improve the admin staff that supports us. And of course, we're trying to learn as much as we can about it too. Mm-hmm. This is a result of in February or March 2017, I was invited by the UK, as I've been re-invited again this year, to take part in a PSC session and training that they were having for the overseas territories in Miami.
Okay.
As a presenter. And part of my negotiation with them at that was to provide us with some training for the admin side of the functionality of the PSC. And they agreed to it. It just has taken this long to put it together. So Mr. King is here. He happens to be one of the clerks of the Tinwell, is what they call their House of Assembly, so to speak. And he's got quite a bit of experience in dealing with committee clerk, as a committee clerk and whatnot. So he's here mostly to provide training for the committee clerks and in how to do minutes and keep us organized, etc., and to provide the necessary admin support that the PSC wants. Mm-hmm. And it's been going quite well. We've had 3 sessions collectively with him. We've invited the Office of the Auditor General to take part as well. So it's a three-part type of thing that's going on. He's going to be here next week when we're having public hearings next week on the people who got the red dot from the Auditor General in not implementing the recommendations, because one of the things that we started to do a year ago was ask Auditor General to go in and look at all the recommendations that have come out of all the different reports and all the timelines that were given to government, and give the PAC a report of what progress had been made. And they do that with a green dot, a yellow dot, and a red dot. So Wednesday, we're having in the Ministry of Health, who are behind still, right? We're having the Minister of Community Affairs and the NAU on Thursday, because some of the stuff that they were committed to more than a year ago to do has not been completely done, and we're still getting complaints from the general public. And he's going to be present for that, so that we can have a debriefing afterwards as to what he thought the admin staff could do differently in preparing for it, what he thought that we as members of the PAC could have done differently in a particular line of questions or whatever. So it's all about raising the standards. And, one of the things that I have committed myself to do is to provide a proper manual, which includes all the ethical standards and everything for the PAC committee. And we have already adopted the standards that are set by the Common Parliamentary Association of Public Account Committees. And Mr. Saunders and Ms. Barbara assisted me in London a year in 2017 to get amendments to the Constitution to give territories like Cayman equal rights in that association. And what I want to do is, at the end of the day, and certainly by the end of this year, I want to have a manual done for the Public Accounts Committee, so that a new incoming Public Accounts Committee comes in, the clerk, and say, this is our modus operandi. And they may make changes, because nothing is carved in stone. But the idea is that we're starting from somewhere, and I'm doing the same thing for the Office of Leader of the Opposition. A big three-ring bind, and I'm trying to lay out all the stuff that the Leader of the Opposition should do, and all the laws in which you either recommend to the governor somebody who they have to accept because it's on your advice, or in consultation with. Because when I became the Leader of Opposition, not that they didn't know, but nobody wanted to tell me anything. So I had to go digging in all the little cupboards and of people's minds and try to extract it. And I think we're getting to the place now where, again, as we talked earlier in the constitutional stuff, is we need to build our institutions. And the Public Accounts Committee is a very important part of the institutions of Parliament. We need to build the institution of the Office of the Opposition and the role of the Opposition, and make it into a more constructive contributor to good governance and stuff like that.
Now, so in this endeavor, do you have support staff to assist you? I mean, in the committee itself, you have a clerk there and everything, but to produce this manual that you've spoken about and stuff like that, do you have additional support staff, or this is something that you have to do on your own initiative with your own resources?
And the committee, and well, I'm hoping that the admin staff will help me in preparing a document. But all the decisions as to what go in the document is a matter that I'm encouraging the committee and present it to the committee, as I did with all the ethical standards that as accepted now throughout the Commonwealth parliamentary Commonwealth environment, that these are the kind of ethical standards that the public accounts. And I have made a determined effort to because you will recall when I was given the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee in 2009, it was a very adversarial environment. We had a Auditor General who the language that he used in his reports were mostly interpreted by the civil service as being insulting and non-cooperative. So I'm coming from that to where we are now, where we have we're trying to work cooperatively with the civil service, because the object has to be to get what's going wrong corrected, you know. And as my grandmother always told me, most times you catch more flies with honey than vinegar, right? And that's been a hard lesson. As you know, I am not unknown to want to spray some vinegar, right? But I think it's working out very well. That's good. And a lot of this has to do with the membership of the Public Accounts Committee, who work. We work closely and very determined to get to the bottom of what's going on in the government and to make a reasonable but determined recommendation. And we're not going to sit back and let the civil service continue to do what they used to do in the past. Is that, well, that's just a recommendation by the Auditor General, and we'll just forget about it. They now know that they are going to be monitored and that they will have to come back if they have not made an effort to listen. It's one thing to say, well, I wanted to do this, Mr. Public Accounts Committee, but the government didn't prepare me the resources, which is the other thing that we have to get to. Is years ago, when I was there in the 80s and I was on the Public Accounts Committee, we had a system that completed the process annually on the year before. The Accountant General, he was called at the time, had to finalize the accounts of government for the year, because it was a calendar year as it is now,
right,
by the 31st of March. He had to present that to the Auditor General at that time. The Auditor General had to do his reports on that thing by the 30th of June. The Public Accounts then got his report on the accounts. We had to do our work by the 30th of September. Then the government was expected to respond to us by the 30th of November. So the whole thing, and the debate took place when the government did their government minute, because then you debate the totality. You can discuss whether you agree with the problem that was identified. You can debate the solution that was offered by the Auditor General to the problem. You can debate whether the Public Accounts Committee has supported that solution or tweaked it or whatever. And you can then also debate the government's minute, which is the government's commitment to what it accepts as recommendations. So we're still working. The last time I tried to get it debated, the Premier challenged me and said that I was inventing stuff and it wasn't to be debated. But I can promise you that the next government meeting will be debated one way or another. Because if I have to move a motion that it be rejected, simply to get it debated, I'll do that. Because that is where the commitment of the government is made publicly to provide the resources to correct the problem. So then the civil servants can no longer say, well, it wasn't given the resources.
Okay, we're going to take a commercial break. Folks, please stay tuned. For the record, with the Honorable D. Ezzard Miller, will continue right after this short commercial break.
It's 2019, and you know what they say, new year, new me?
Yeah, Bobo. For me, it's new year, new car.
For real? What you thinking of buying?
The new RAV4 from Vant Motors. It's one of the safest compact SUVs out there with enough room inside, which is good for my family and convincing my wife we need this. Plus, it's fuel efficient, fun to drive, and on top of that, it's on sale too.
Yeah, and I hear it's one of the best-selling SUVs on the market.
Cause you don't gotta spend more to do more. That's why I'm gonna get mine now, while they have a new stock to select from.
Do more in your RAV4. Save thousands on the all-new 2019 RAV4. Test drive yours today and see why the RAV4 is a best-selling SUV in Cayman. Available only at Vant Motors, Walkers Road.
CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, formerly known as Professional Pharmacy, would like to thank the Cayman communities for their loyal support these past 18 years. Our staff work towards healthcare excellence and providing the most current and up-to-date training with pharmaceutical care. Thorough background checks and follow-up consultations is only the beginning. Your safety is our concern. Our staff are respected healthcare professionals whose job requires careful and precise calculations. Thank you for being a part of our family and for choosing CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, where we prepare to provide exceptional care. At CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, we care about your health.
Kirk's Home Center, we can make your life much better. We got it all together. We got a great deal in store for you. From cookware to stereos, from power tools to plumbing supplies. Yeah, we got the best goods with the best price and a service to make you smile. Kirk's Home Center, we got a great deal in store for you.
Flowers Bottled Water is a sponsor of Radio Cayman's CI Retro Talk Today, special Cayman Islands historical program series. Flowers Bottled Water, the cooler of water. Telephone 949-8688. The next CI Retro Talk Today special program presentation comes your way on Thursday, January the 17th at 12:15 p.m. on Radio Cayman.
Initiating system.
For information that matters, for the record, with Orrett Connor, continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, Honorable D. Ezzard Miller, leader of the opposition. Mr. Miller, we were talking about the Public Accounts Committee. Anything else you want to talk about in that regard?
Well, I can announce this. On, as I said earlier, Wednesday we're doing a public hearing on the Minister of Community Affairs, and they're not getting put in place all the recommendations that were done, and the Ministry of Health. Then I think the Auditor General is releasing today, or it was done yesterday, her report on the state of anti-corruption facilities in the country, which is a very interesting and good thing. And we will be holding public hearings on that on January the 30th. Okay. Because it is fair to say that we have many of the pieces of legislation in place which fulfill many of the needs of anti-corruption laws that we need in place. My concern has always been if those individual agencies, both individually and collectively, where they can work together, are resourced sufficiently to be able to investigate and detect and convict on these. Because I have a passion against corruption. I think it's one of the most awful things that can happen in the country. The other thing that seems to be not enough of, shall I say, I guess that's the best way to put it, is enough training in the civil service for the prevention of corruption. And we know we have in place the whistleblower legislation, which goes a long way in protecting the civil servants who do decide to expose corruption. But I think there needs to be some individual and more of training to spot the opportunities for corruption and be able to report them in time as a preventative measure as opposed to after the fact measure. You will recall that we passed a new procurement legislation which set up a new procurement regime for government major projects. But that's a good example of what I'm talking about. The law was, I think we passed the law sometime in 2017. The law was commenced, I believe it was the 1st of May 2018. Right? I know that up until late October, early November, because the governor wrote me, because that's one of the laws that the leader of the opposition is privileged to recommend somebody to the governor, and that's on advice of. So they have to recommend who I nominate.
They have to not recommend, but they have to appoint.
They have to appoint the person that I recommend because it's on the advice of the members of the leader of the opposition.
Unless there's some reason that you're not aware of that would disqualify the person.
If I recommend a criminal or something, That's a different thing. Yeah. But we're assuming that you do your own due diligence and you take a sensible approach to these things. Mm-hmm. But I got my letter in March. I made my recommendation because I recommended Dr. Sidney Ebanks, who I know is a stalwart for that kind of thing, before the end of March, right? The law came into effect 1st of May. Because other persons...
In 2018?
Right. Mm-hmm. Other persons who should have made recommendations did not make their recommendations up until late November. The last time I checked, the committee had not yet been appointed. And I don't recall... I do get the Gazette, and I've been checking. I don't recall seeing... I'm not saying it hasn't been done, but I have not seen the Gazette notice setting up this new procurement committee. Now, the risk in that and the complication in that not being done before the law came into effect was that the law basically disbanded what we've known as the Central Tenders Committee and replaced it with this committee. And I don't recall in the legislation provisions for the CTC to continue as the procurement committee until the procurement committee. So there seems to have been a period of time here now when we have been operating without a proper procurement committee, right? And one wonders how we have been awarding contracts. Because that again is improper, right? Because all these contracts after the 1st of May should be awarded under the new procurement regime. You know, I mean, it's a different thing if we were the CTC on the 30th of April was in finalizing a thing that they had done. Would be normal for them to sign off on it.
Right.
But I don't think there's any provision in the law after the 1st of May for new projects to be handled by the CTC.
Could that possibly, if that has been done, could that bring into question the legality of the contracts that are entered into?
That is my concern, is that if I was a bidder, right, and somebody other than this procurement committee awarded the contract and I didn't get it, I would question why. So I think if I don't know, I hope not, that major decisions. Now, I have been at lunch with friends and I see I'm getting a phone call from their board chairman to approve certain things, right? To agree to certain things that is being tendered or not tendered, and major projects, not minor. One wonders how this is being done, and I guess from my point of view, to alleviate my curiosity and my concerns, I may have to request of the Auditor General that she look at that period, right, between the 1st of May, right, and whenever this committee is or was appointed, what happened in between there.
Okay. One of our listeners has said, written and said, in full agreement with so much that Mr. Miller has said about how to deal with these oppressive requirements being imposed upon us from these so-called developed countries. Also fully agree regarding the practice of these so-called gardening companies using these leaf blowers, a health hazard as well as a laserman's tool for transferring garbage from one place to another. And again, if you can touch on that leaf blowing situation, why? To me, it's a low-hanging fruit again. Why don't we go and
I have said to our community police on Northside, you need to enforce the little law.
Yes.
You can't blow the garbage out of somebody's yard onto the government street and blow it across the road on somebody's land. That is littering. they should be charged. Well, the next meeting...
Or even, not even on the land, in the public right away.
They leave it in the road. They leave it in
yes.
the road, and then the car sprayed it for everybody.
Yeah. Well, I can tell them on a Sunday morning, I can lead them straight to one culprit right at the Kaibo, the parking lot there. They're blowing it. And the only time that he's not out there blowing is when it's raining. Now, I run the risk now he might point the blower at us when we're crossing on a Sunday morning.
Blow you off your bike.
No, but it's enough of us that we can defend ourselves.
Right. And if you need help, call me. One of the things that but again, we don't have sufficient community ordinances, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would, and I'm going to make representation at district council that we ban the use of blowers in our community, because all they're doing is spreading the garbage from one place to the next, and then the next side comes along, blows it back on theirs. In the meantime, the wind picks it up and carries it to some innocent person whose lot of land may not be developed yet. So they collect all the garbage. And then it becomes an infestation for rats and cats and dogs and everything else.
Yep, okay. We're going to go to our headline news at 9 o'clock. When we return, we want to talk about, we have one caller. We'll take the caller afterwards, and so we will take that caller, and then we want to talk a little bit more about the politics and the... it wasn't a coalition. You mentioned...
that we hope to put together the Cayman an alliance during this year.
Yes, the alliance, yes. We want to talk about the alliance as well. Folks, please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back after this short break for our headline news at 9 o'clock.
Satisfaction is guaranteed 24 hours a day, whether it's music or information.
From Grand Cayman to Cayman Brac to Little Cayman, we've got you covered.
You ever hear a thing like that?
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman. Radio Cayman's newsroom. These are the biggest stories right now.
Local health officials are urging Cayman residents to be aware of the symptoms of dengue as a precaution following increased activity in the region. Over the last 3 years, Cayman has seen 3 imported and 1 locally transmitted case in 2016, none in 2017, and 2 imported cases in 2018. Heavy snowfall brought chaos to parts of Germany and Sweden today, leaving roads blocked, trains halted, and schools shut. The Red Cross helped drivers stuck on a motorway in the southern German state of Bavaria. Schools and rail services were also hit. A 9-year-old boy was killed by a falling tree on Thursday. Northern Sweden was hit by a storm that made roads impassable. Austrian rescuers had to battle through chest-deep snow to reach a snowboarder. And Polish security forces have arrested a Chinese national and a Polish man for spying. The Chinese national is a sales director at Chinese telecoms firm Huawei's Polish branch. The tech company has been a focal point of international scrutiny, with several countries raising security concerns about its products. Those are your headlines. I'm Carsley Fuller.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands. What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
Initiating system.
For information that matter. For the record. With Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. We're in the last half hour of the show this morning with none other than the Honourable D. Ezzard Miller, Leader of the Opposition. As promised, we're going straight to the phone lines. First caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am. How are you?
Fine. Good morning, Mr. Miller. Happy New Year.
Same to you, my dear.
You sound very solemn this morning.
That's just because you're talking to me.
Mr. Miller, this blowing of garden work here in this island is getting worse and worse by the minute, by the hour, by the day, by the month, by the year. I literally watched someone blow from one yard to the next a couple of months ago. And he looked at me and asked me, what's wrong? I said, what's wrong? You better be glad that that's not my yard you're blowing out into. That's what you better be glad of.
Yeah.
Something needs to be done about these blowers. What happened to the rakes and the brooms and the garbage pan we rakes the leaves into our bags? These guys are going ahead cutting all 5, 6, 8 lawns a day with the big companies, and they're blowing the stuff from one yard to the next of someone's property, like you said. It needs to be stopped. And these guys have these trailers pulled behind their cars or the trucks, and they have no license plate, not on them. Government needs revenue. Why don't these officers get out here and ticket these guys for toting these things behind their vehicle that has no light when they're going to turn left or right and so forth? Yesterday on Smith Road, we stopped the bus, and as the kids step off the bus, about to step off the last step of the bus, a car zoomed across the bus door. I don't know what the police going to do about the traffic on the road. Hank came on, they say they're going to do this, and they're doing that. I don't know what they're doing, but they need to get out here and do a serious warning to these drivers, especially when they come to these school buses on the road for the short period of time that they're on the road for. And in regards to the other regular driving, there's a lot of crazy driving going on here. OC, Miller, next 5 years. Let me tell you something. It's not going to be good. And I say we need no more lanes in Cayman, because the more lanes we get, the faster they are going. And all I can see the 40-mile zone, 35-mile zone, 25, and people are flying from lane to lane. And I don't see no officers nowhere where it's really necessary. I'm going to go back, Mr. Miller, and ask a question. If an officer comes to your resident looking for, trying to locate someone in the area, and they ask if you know Tom Jones, and you say no, do they have the right to run your license plate in your yard without your permission?
Well, they can. I think they can run your license plate at any time, in your yard or on the road to find out. I would hope that it wasn't done because you didn't know the person has a.
As a way to intimidate the person.
It shouldn't be used for that purpose. If that was the intent, then that's wrong. Absolutely wrong.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna let you go, but a couple of nights ago, the officers came out to my door, and when I just put my alarm on, and I heard this have a pound, and I'm like, wow, who is this? So when I got to the door, I was bright light on my door, and I went to the blind, and I said, who is it? Police. I said, so I opened the door. I said, what have I done? Oh, we're looking for a certain individual. I said, well, I don't know who you're looking for because there's no one here. Or do you do a rental here? Do you have a rental in your backyard? I said, no. But I noticed that my leave light was on, so apparently that comes on when someone walks on there, or a cat or dog, whatever. So they must have went around the back of the house looking to see what it could be before I even got to the door. And then he asked me my name. And he said, your name is so-and-so. I said, yeah. So he didn't pronounce my name properly. So I said, yes. He said, I'll run your license plate. And I'm looking for so-and-so. I said, well, you got the wrong guy, my dear. And they said he came to the night before, but it was like 11 o'clock, and my place was in darkness, so they didn't ask. They didn't come to the door, but they came but after 7 o'clock the other night. But the fact of the matter is they're looking for a certain house color. My house is pink, so they got to get the colors correct. But I just wonder.
And we have house numbers these days too, so they, that's another thing. You do have house numbers.
I just wonder why would they run a license plate when they see the car parked up in the driveway. They came the night before and saw it parked up there, and they came back the next night. The car is parked there, and they got to tell me they run by license plate, but they're looking for some individual. So I want to know how they can just go run my license plate. And they came to the wrong house, but yet they run my license plate. I don't know how.
Okay, thank you very much. You have a nice weekend, my dear. Let's take the next caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, Mr. Orrett, caller.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Okay, and good morning to Mr. Ezzard Miller.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, I heard you all speaking just a few minutes ago concerning the blowers. I do not agree with using the blowers to blow leaves in someone else's property. That is not something I agree with at all.
Yeah.
But to say that the blower is a lazy man's tool is foolishness and incorrect. And you should provide an apology for saying that. Because if you have to rake the amount of leaves, instead of blowing them, you would probably not even be able to get 1 yard done for the day.
But where are you blowing them? How are you collecting them in a kind of receptacle, blowing them?
Well, people blew them in a pile, they pick them up, and they put them in the truck.
Okay.
I used to do gardening work, so I'm able to tell you that.
Okay.
But to say it's a lazy man's tool is incorrect, and you owe the public an apology.
No,
it's almost.
That's my opinion. I don't apologize. I don't apologize for my opinion. That's my opinion.
You being ignorant, and if you want to be that way, that's your business. But it's like saying a car is for someone who is lazy and doesn't want to walk. It's almost like saying the same thing. If you don't have the experience with the blower that I have and raking the yard that I had. So that's all I have to say, Mr. Miller. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much,
You're entitled to your opinion, too.
Sure. Yeah. Rake it, you get a little bit more exercise, and all that goes with it, too. And I've raked big yards before. You just rake up, small piles, around as well. But,
I believe that I could argue the case that it takes you longer to blow it than it is to rake it. But anyway, that's beside the point.
The Alliance.
Yeah, when I became leader of opposition OC, I think it was on your show, one of the things I talked about that I wanted to accomplish as leader of opposition was that I wanted to take 18 months, and to earn the public's respect and the public confidence that we were serious about being a constructive opposition and not an opportunistic opposition, and no longer was the position of leader opposition being looked at as simply as a facilitator to be premier, and therefore all we do was oppose for opposition's sake. And that I was hoping as we moved on, once we had garnered that kind of respect from the public, which I speak up to people like you corrected me, or other callers like that saying that we haven't done that. But I believe that it is fair. My assessment is that the public has responded well to the way the opposition has functioned over the last 18 months. I think it had become obvious that total independence, trying to come together after an election to form a government is very difficult, if not impossible, to do. So we have been discussing for some time the need to put together some kind of grouping which would offer the country an alternative. And what I said in my New Year message was that during the coming year, we would be establishing a People's Alliance as a way of bringing people together to put a team together for the next election. No, this thing is in its infancy. It's a seed that is planted, and it has to germinate and take roots and everything else. I didn't pretend that it was a fait accompli and that everything was in place and we knew everything that we were going to do, because I have talked extensively about what I want to see us develop into, and I want this to be done organically by bringing people. I am not interested in being the leader in a normal structure of a political party where 3 or 4 people at the top of the party, whether that's because of their charisma or because of their financial standing or because of their greater knowledge, right, dictate everything, and we have somebody who's appointed to whip everybody else in place and follow the mantra. What I'm interested in putting together is a team of people who are bright, articulate, strong-willed, and have their own views, and are not scared to look at me and say, Ezzard, well, we don't agree with what you're doing. These are the reasons why. But I want people that are willing to sit down around a table and articulate their position, listen to other people's position, because you will remember me talking specifically in that about one of the things we don't do is listen to each other, and come up with consensus, which is what I have been trying to do as leader of opposition, is to build consensus in my group and then try and build consensus in the public of what we're trying to do. So the idea is that I want to put this organization in place. It like I say, it is left to be fleshed out and developed and all that. But I think that can be accomplished during this calendar year. because as leader I will have to put certain time frames in place in order to achieve these things, or else it doesn't happen.
Okay. We have one caller. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, Mr. For the Record.
Good morning, Doc. How are you?
And good morning to the Honorable Ezzard Miller.
Good morning, sir.
I believe what you said today about your the work that you've done and the reasons why you have been doing it. And I know that as a fact. I believe that, and I believe that. What I want to challenge you this morning again is about Section 119 and Section 117 of the Constitution.
Yes, sir.
The Standard and Public Life and the district and advisory district councils. I know the last time I spoke to you about this, you said that you had when the governor invited the opposition to speak to him, you brought that up.
Yep.
That those laws should be enforced. Should they come into force?
Absolutely.
The laws have been passed by the Legislative Assembly. They should come into force. And nothing has been done. This is 2019 now.
Right, working on it up until this week, sir.
This is 10 years now since the Constitution came into effect. And I wonder if you had a chance to bring that up when you went to the people of London who was the administering countries.
Well, I didn't bring it up with them, but we have basically made it a condition with the government that those things have to be brought into place. And I continue to put pressure, and as old people say, watch this space. I had the Auditor General has just, I believe the report is either published today or yesterday, on the state of anti-corruption legislation and facilities in it. And one of the things that is going to be drilled down is why the Standards and Public Life Law, being 4 years on the books, being brought back to Parliament to be amended extensively at the bequest of those people who it was going to affect, has not been brought into force. I have received a letter from H.E., the governor, this week, because when it comes to the Standards and Public Life Commission, those appointments have to be made in consultation with the leader of the opposition. And he wrote me about inquiring if I would support or had any difficulty in reappointing the chairman and another member to the Standards and Public Life Law. And I took the opportunity in agreeing with him continue their appointment to remind him that and ask him to use whatever authority he has to make sure that the Standards and Public Life Law is brought into force. Because it's a decision that has to be made by the cabinet, as you were aware, because we used to write laws that said once the governor signed them, they became law.
Yes.
In the past decade, we've introduced this clause too in the legislation that we passed that says the law will be brought into effect by a commencement notice published in the Gazette, and different sections of the law may be brought in at separate times. I have always not liked that clause because it leaves it then subject to and the politicians can take credit for passing the law, but they don't have to abide by the law because they don't bring it into force. And the general public doesn't pay enough attention to these kind of things to be aware that is not done. But the Standards and Public Health Law is the most glaring example in recent history. That law was passed in 2016. 2014. Yes. It was brought back in 2016 to do amendments because apparently some of the people who would have to comply with the provisions of that didn't like it, right? And those amendments were made, and some of those same people apparently are still objecting to the legislation being brought into force and threatening the government that if they bring it into force, this is my understanding, that they will no longer be willing to serve on government boards. Now, I have a very simple solution to that. If you're not, as a member of a board, prepared to comply with this kind of sensible legislation which has the necessary anti-corruption in it and reduces the opportunities for corruption, then I don't think you should be on a board. Simple.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But it also affects what people do in cabinet.
Absolutely. No. And it's very well. It also talks extensively about relationships between members of cabinet and members of the legislative assembly and the functionalities of these boards and who they can put on the boards and all that sort of stuff. Many of which are currently being contravened by this present government.
Caller, we have to go to a commercial break now, sir. I have to interrupt.
But you have my commitment, sir, that I am not going to give up until both of those things are done.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Doc, for that. We have one caller. We're going to ask that caller to hang in there. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we will take your call right after that, please.
Since March 2004, West Bay Pharmacy has kept their doors open to the local communities, even before, during, and after Hurricane Ivan. At West Bay Pharmacy, our staff provides so much more than pharmaceutical excellence. From the moment you walk through our doors to completing your cash out, our staff will have put your healthcare concerns at ease. We would like to take this moment to thank our loyal friends and customers. To us at West Bay Pharmacy, our patients are our primary concern. We provide thorough background checks and precise calculations to ensure your medical safety. Thank you for being a part of our family and for choosing West Bay Pharmacy, where we care about your health.
Hello, I am Noel March, a small business owner in Georgetown for over 20 years. Small businesses depend on government to develop a quality infrastructure and environment that encourages entrepreneurs to create and grow local businesses, resulting in the creation of jobs and prosperity for Caymanians. Small businesses help drive our economy. Just as we have supported building the new airport, we must support the building of the new cargo and cruise port. It will give our tourism industry the opportunity to grow and Caymanian entrepreneurs the chance to shine. Support the port. Support our tourism.
Final call for all exhibitors and market vendors. Stall sales are now available for the 52nd Cayman Islands Agriculture Show, Ash Wednesday, March 6th at the Stacey Watler Pavilion in Lower Valley. Take advantage of one of the most popular events in Cayman and book your stalls now. For more information, call 947-3696. That's 947-3696, or visit their Facebook page at Cayman Agriculture. Don't miss out on the biggest homegrown event of the year, the 52nd Annual Cayman Islands Agriculture Show. Exhibitors and market vendors, book your stalls today.
Initiating system.
For information that matters, for the record, with Orrett Connor, continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome to For the Record. We're on the last leg of the show this morning with the Honourable D. Ezzard Miller, Leader of the Opposition, going to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record. Thanks for being so patient.
Yeah, good morning, O.C. and Mr. Miller.
Good morning. How are you?
Not too bad.
I was asking for you the other day.
Happy Christmas.
Thanks. I was asking for you a few days ago whether or not you'd gone back up or you were still here.
Yeah, I came back up. We came down there, but we couldn't get a game. Since you left, everything just went to, closed, look like.
Yeah, everybody complains about that.
Yeah. So, anyway, I want to sort of ask Mr. Miller about this Constitution, because it seems like the politicians only addresses the Constitution whenever it's a part in there that suits them. And the constituents of the different districts, when they put something forward in the Constitution, they seem to want to go on like it's not there, or they shouldn't pay attention to that. So with my popular situation, I have asked Mr. Miller on this radio station before, what can he do concerning that? And it seems to me that he can't do nothing. And to me, it seems like what I'm gathering from all the information and all the cross talk and on the record, that when Alden sort of fulfills his term, the baton will be passed on to Mr. Miller. Now, yes, that is out there. That is out there. I mean, I don't know It mightn't be that you can read it in the paper, but that is out there.
Mm-hmm.
So I am begging Mr. Miller to address the situation with me up here, because up here is none of the representatives up here. You can't even get a call on them.
I agree with you. So I think you have a legitimate, and somebody needs to take. You're right. There's nothing I personally can do about it other than the advice I've given you was to go to land registry and make sure it's all clarified and all that sorts of stuff. But somebody in the government needs to take ownership of your problem and find a solution or an alternative to what's going on. There's no changes need to be made to the Constitution for that. That's just a matter of the people who have the authority accepting that you have a problem to which they need to find a solution and get on and find it.
You're in the opposition.
Yeah, but I can't make any executive decisions in government.
Why not? Why not?
Because I don't.
That's the way the system works.
That's the way it is.
That's the way it is?
Yeah.
Well, then what part do you really play?
Well, I play in trying to keep the government honest and keep them concentrating on the benefits, and I have supported your position publicly, privately, and everything else. That's what and make the public know what the government is doing, rightly or wrongly, what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong. That's the role of the opposition. The role of the opposition is the reason the government is the executive is because they have the majority. That's a democracy.
But you can suggest to them that this is what's taking place.
I have.
You have.
In your specific incidents, I have spoken directly to the minister about it.
And what response did you get?
He said he was going to look into it.
He was going to look into it. That's what everybody keeps on telling me they're going to look into it. I want to find out how long they need to look into it.
It look like we need to get up some water glasses or some old-time spike glasses.
But caller, what about the suggestion that that you seek legal advice on it? Have you gotten anywhere with that, or you haven't gone that route yet?
I got some legal advice on that, but that could take about 10 years.
And costly as well.
Exactly. But
well, I mean,
it is nothing so hard or shouldn't be so nothing difficult for the government, whether it be the opposition or the government that is in power. That is nothing wrong with them looking into the situation and say, listen, this man has to be compensated. The Constitution clearly states that, and it's nothing wrong with the opposition suggesting that.
Got it, but we can only make a suggestion. You're expecting me to do something or from an executive level to correct the problem. I can only make the suggestions to the government, call on them to deal with the issue.
Okay.
And that I have already done. I've done that publicly on the radio for you.
So when you get the premiership, now you can handle it.
That's right. I can't pass it on to anybody. Then you'll get action. I can't tell you get the result you want, but you get a decision, short order.
No, that's straight talking.
Very much, man.
It's not going to take long.
Thank you very much, caller, for that. Thank you. We have one more caller. Before we go to that caller, though, I just want to read. We have to treat our WhatsApp people fairly as well. It says, good morning. Please ask Honourable Ezzard Miller if it's anything that can be done about the high fuel price in these islands. In Texas, gas is $1.50 per gallon, and here is so high. And in the BRAC, it is $5.14 per gallon. Thank him for getting the duty-free allowance up to $500 for returning residents also.
The solution to fuel prices is a simple one. We created this whole reg and all of these laws and everything else. Mr. McLean, the member for East End, has consistently, for almost as long as I can remember, suggested that we need to put a pricing formula in the legislation. That's all we need to do. He did it with the new contract for CUC. I think it's called RCAM, where you have certain things that goes into the formula and you allow certain profit motives, and that's the price. And the government has no excuse. This horrendous proposal that the CEO of Orrett came down to the Public Accounts Committee and talked about they don't want to enforce the law. They want to encourage competition because that's going to reduce prices. and he bragged about the introducing of this new fuel one, what's it called, refuel, right? And you remember that there were times when they were talking about they were going to be $2 cheaper and all this kind of stuff. And as soon as they got into the market, they're a little bit cheaper, but not significantly. They're not significantly cheaper in a competitive way, which causes the other ones to lower their prices to get in the business.
Yep. Okay.
And that, unless competition works at that, but competition is not the answer for the problem. Fuel is a commodity that everybody uses. It affects us daily in our life, just like electricity. The government needs to put a formula, and the one that Mr. McLean has consistently recommended, I believe, is the fairest opportunity and the fairest approach, and set the price for fuel.
Okay, we're going to take our last call for the morning. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Yeah, good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Fine. How are you guys doing for the new year?
Pretty good, and a happy one, and healthy and prosperous one to you as well.
Thank you so much. Right then, Omani up here in West Bay. I know I won't be able to defend myself just as in case there's any controversy about what I'm saying. But a few minutes ago, Dr. McField was talking about the district councils. And I remember quietly when we was forming the West Bay Action Committee and all prepared to get a district council, we were shot down by some of the politicians, okay? Now, what I want to say, you have people, not just in West Bay, but I will name specifically West Bay for one reason. People like the late Gressman Ebanks, maybe Alan Ebanks and a few others, that have spent so much time into Northwood prisons because they might have went and got a lobster out of season or a few conchs over. I remember seeing these guys from the Marine section with binoculars watching to see what they were doing. But here we got in our modern day, and I haven't heard one politician. Mr. Miller might be saying something, but I'm not sure that he's conscious of the situation. Hopefully he is. In West Bay, you have the princes of privilege who are potentially ready to dredge out half of the area of Barcus, okay, about catering to tourism, when that's supposed to be nothing more and nothing less than a marine park. Where is our politicians, including the four in West Bay and all over the island? You don't have the interest or the guts to try to protect this island. I mean, these people are ruthless developers coming in here and doing as they see fit, and no one is calling the shots and say, look, let's just hang on a minute now. I am being outstanding for my island or my district, and this is not good enough. Gentlemen, if we're not careful, what's going to happen here? We're going to have nothing but concrete in our island. We're going to have a ruined island just like Miami, where I used to live, and you have nothing, not even clear water. You have a lot of silt coming in. I hope that somebody will be able to say, look, I'm sorry, just leave that alone. That is a marine park. It should not be touched, and stop messing around because of salaries and politics, and try to protect what you have for your children and grandchildren, gentlemen. So, like I said, I won't be able to call back in, but that's my little piece, and I hope it is taken in the context that it was meant to be. So that's it. Have yourself a pleasant day, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Mr. Miller, I'll give you an opportunity to respond and then to make your closing remarks.
I have stated publicly that I oppose to that, and it's not a marine park. It's a replenishment zone, as far as I know, which is even worse. I said so on Barry's show on Tuesday night. Came on now that I don't support the application. I agree with him that his representatives in West Bay need to be much more active and vocal in it. Closing remarks. Yeah, well, we know we have, unfortunately, one of our stalwart citizens, Ms. Carolyn Carter, who we know as Truppans, passed away in the last few days, and her funeral is 3 p.m. at the Civic Centre, Craddock Bank Civic Centre in Northside on Sunday. So I just wanted to, I know it's in the paper today, but I wanted to announce that so that the people in Northside who are listening would be aware of it. also want to continue to encourage Caymanians and people who are concerned with the port and the environment in general to turn up at the meeting planned by the various organizations on next week, Saturday the 19th. I think it's from 12 till 4 p.m. in the South Sound Civic Center.
Okay.
And bring your families. I intend to attend and carry my family, because it is important that we listen to these concerns that these people are expressing. And, of course, I want to continue to encourage people to sign the petition for the referendum. There's an interesting article on the front page of the Compass today, Port Businesses Fear for Future. We hear the ad being run while I'm here with one of the business people advocating for the port to be built because it means more business for them. One of the things that the consultants for the port identified in their analysis for the government was the loss of business opportunities once we dredge out that area and close down the waterfront. Some to $10 to $12 million a year is going to be lost from the environment. Yet we have these people who are being cajoled by government to come out in support of the port because they have been convinced that numbers means more. I think that last week, one day we had 6 ships in, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And a lot of people were complaining about, we don't think all the people got off the boats. They may all got off the boats, but the reason they didn't go into the shops is because the lines that existed. So I think that's a clear demonstration that more is not necessarily better. And if you talk to the actual salespeople and stuff, they will tell you that there's a point of diminishing returns, right? Where you get so many people in the store that you can't deal with nobody. So nobody gets served and no sales are completed. And we have huge concerns about the port, and we need to stop this port. We need to get the remainder of the signatures that we need to get past the 25% and send it into government and before they go out and sign contracts. And again, now this is a good example of who's handling this award of these bids, whether it's the procurement committee in accordance with the new procurement law, or is this a hangover from the CTC, right, which has a lot less teeth than the new procurement committee and a lot less stringent requirements, and is being handled in that process? Or I trust that the reason that the procurement committee was not properly appointed by the 1st of May was because we needed to deal with things like the port and the solid waste before we got into the new requirements of the procurement law, because they're a lot more stringent. I give people the benefit of the doubt and hope that that's not the reason, but it's a distinct possibility. So we need to get this procurement committee up, and we need to get involved in what's going on. And getting back to my idea of, and Osi, that my political mantra has always been from the first time around in the 80s and 90s, I believe that the people have a right to participate in the decisions that I make for them, and I use participative democracy as my mantra. But we can only give you the opportunities to participate. You have to grab these opportunities and participate. And what the referendum is asking for is for you to be given the opportunity to participate in the decision directly, not by deferring to some politician who is getting influences from all categories, but that you will directly be given the opportunity to participate in the decision by voting in a referendum, yes for the port or no for the port. Mm-hmm. And that's very important for our democracy. We've always had this big belief that we need to do a lot more things by referendum, that it is in the Constitution. It is unfortunate that the government, the very government that engineered, the very government that negotiated this Constitution, the very government that passed this Constitution through referenda, are spending hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars of the people's money advertising and promoting these erroneous facts about what this pier is going to deliver for business people and people in Georgetown, right? And it's going to be interesting to see what the final figure is. But based on what I paid out of my pocket, and is still left to pay, the Radio Cayman for the few ads that we put on for our road show, I can safely say that the government is spending hundreds of thousands of dollars promoting this port project while garbage is not being collected. People can't get services from NAU because they don't have staff to facilitate them. People are being denied health care because they don't have proper health insurance. And the government is spending hundreds of thousands of dollars out there to promote this project. So I encourage people to sign the petition. Let's get involved in the decision. And thank you, Mr. O.C., for having me, and thanks for Radio Cayman for giving me the opportunity to come here.
Thanks. I just want to say one thing in terms of the referendum. I think where's some of the confusion with people who may have some reluctance about signing the petition is that the same people, some of the same people who are saying, we want you to participate, we want you to have a say in the decision, are saying in the same breath, we oppose the port project. So people are linking the signing of the petition clearly and solely with opposing the port project. And that's where the confusion is coming in with people. Mm-hmm. And sometimes when people make the claim that by signing the petition, you're saying no against the port, there may be some credibility to what they're saying.
Well, I mean, the whole fact that signing the petition moves a decision away from the political regime to the people, right? Can be encouraged, can be said that, and the only people who are going to promote that is the people who don't want it, mm-hmm. right? But it doesn't mean that if you're so confident that the general public and the need for this port is there, then you should sign for the petition and go and vote yes. No?
Yep. Okay, folks, I want to thank you. First of all, I want to thank Mr. Miller for being here and making yourself available. A very good show, very good discussion. Mm-hmm. I want to thank our viewing and listen audience for allowing Radio Cayman and by extension For the Record into your homes, into your vehicles as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, whether it be an office cubicle or if you're working in the outdoors. I want to remind you that we are brothers and our sisters keepers. There is always someone out there who's less fortunate than we are, and I ask you to extend a helping hand to them. If you can't do that, then I suggest you donate to a worthy charity, because we always want to consider those who need, not necessarily those who want or even those who crave. I say to you, have a great day. Continue to support your radio station, Radio Cayman. Join Sterling Dwayne Ebanks at 12:15 for Talk Today. And as usual, we ask the good Lord to bless these three beautiful, wonderful Cayman Islands.
For the Record is brought to you by Vamped Motors, the only authorized Ford and Toyota dealership serving the Cayman Islands. And Cayman Pharmacy Group, with locations in West Base and professional pharmacy at CTMH Doctors Hospital. The Cayman Pharmacy Group has a location for you just around the corner.